The Galactic Distress Call. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with nervous energy. Representatives from 1,000 worlds shifted uneasily in their seats, appendages of all shapes and sizes fidgeting as they awaited news. At the center of the room, High Counselor Zaxlith stood motionless, his crystalline form refracting the soft light that filled the chamber. Esteemed colleagues, Zaxlith's voice resonated, cutting through the murmurs. The situation has grown dire. The void continues its relentless advance, consuming star systems at an alarming rate. Our finest minds have failed to find a solution. A ripple of dismay swept through the assembly. The void, a cosmic anomaly of incomprehensible scale, had appeared on the fringes of the galaxy cycles ago. It defied all known laws of physics, swallowing matter and energy alike, leaving only empty space in its wake. Ambassador Neelix of the Centauri Confederation rose, his tentacles swaying with agitation. High Counselor, surely there must be something we haven't tried. The combined knowledge of our civilizations spans millions of years. Zaxlith's crystalline structure dimmed slightly, a sign of his weariness. We have exhausted every option, Ambassador. Our weapons are useless against it. Our fastest ships cannot outrun its expansion. Even our attempts to evacuate worlds in its path have met with limited success. The chamber erupted into chaos, fear and desperation evident in every voice. Zaxlith raised his arms, calling for order. Please, friends, we must remain united in this crisis. From the back of the chamber, a small rodent-like being scurried forward. Professor Quix, chief xenorchaeologist of the Galactic University, climbed onto the speaking platform. His whiskers twitched nervously as he addressed the council. Esteemed colleagues, if I may, there might be one option we haven't considered. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to the diminutive professor. In my studies of ancient galactic history, I've come across references to a species that might be able to help us. Zaxlith leaned forward, interest piqued. Go on, Professor. Quix cleared his throat. They're called humans, a relatively young species from a planet called Earth in the Orion Arm. They're not part of our galactic community, but legends speak of their incredible adaptability and problem-solving skills. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Neelix scoffed. A primitive species. How could they possibly help us when our advanced civilizations have failed? Professor Quix's tail swished excitedly. That's just it. Their thinking is different, unconventional. They've overcome challenges in ways that defy logic. And more importantly, they faced extinction-level threats multiple times and survived. High Counselor Zaxlith pondered for a moment, his crystalline form shimmering with internal light. Professor, what makes you think these humans would even be willing to help us? The records suggest a strong drive to explore and connect with other intelligent life, Quix replied, and a remarkable capacity for empathy, even towards species unlike themselves. The council chamber buzzed with heated debate. Some dismissed the idea outright, while others saw a glimmer of hope in this unconventional approach. As the arguments raged, Zaxlith raised his arms once more for silence. My friends, we stand at the precipice of annihilation. Our conventional methods have failed us. Perhaps it is time to embrace the unconventional. He turned to Professor Quix. How do we contact these humans? The professor's whiskers twitched nervously. Well, that's the tricky part. They're not connected to our galactic communication network. We'd need to send a physical expedition to their solar system. Ambassador Neelix's tentacles writhed in frustration. That could take years. We don't have that kind of time. Zaxlith's voice cut through the rising clamor. We have no choice. We must try every option available to us, no matter how slim the chance of success. He turned to address the entire council. I propose we immediately dispatch our fastest ship to the Sol system. Who will volunteer for this crucial mission? The chamber fell silent. The journey would be long and perilous, with no guarantee of success. Then, from the Arcturian delegation, A slender, blue-skinned being stood. "I will go," said Ambassador Lyra, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with determination. "And I," rumbled Grok, a massive, rock-like Petrosian. "My people have experience with long-distance space travel." One by one, volunteers from different species stepped forward, forming an unlikely crew for this desperate mission. As the final preparations were made, High Counselor Zaxlith addressed them solemnly. "You carry with you the hopes of our entire galaxy. Find these humans. Convince them to help us, and may the stars guide your journey." As the sleek diplomatic vessel lifted off from the spaceport, the assembled dignitaries watched in silence. The ship's engines flared brilliantly, propelling it towards the unknown. In its wake, it left a galaxy holding its breath, pinning its last hopes on a species it had never met. The journey to Earth was grueling. Even with the most advanced propulsion systems, it took months to traverse the vast distances between galactic arms. The crew, a motley assortment of beings from across the galaxy, spent their time studying everything they could about humanity from the fragmented records they possessed. Ambassador Lyra pored over accounts of human history, marveling at the species' resilience in the face of adversity. They'd survived ice ages, pandemics, and world wars. She mused to Grok one cycle. Perhaps Professor Quix was right about their potential. Grok rumbled thoughtfully, his stony features difficult to read. "We shall see. I remain skeptical, but hope is all we have left." As they entered the Sol system, tension aboard the ship reached its peak. Would the humans detect their approach? How would they react to the presence of alien life? The answers came swiftly as their sensors picked up a flurry of activity from the third planet. "They've spotted us," reported the Vexillian navigator, his compound eyes blinking rapidly. "Multiple spacecraft are approaching our position." Ambassador Lyra took a deep breath, her bioluminescent patterns swirling with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "This is the moment we've been preparing for. Open a channel. It's time to introduce ourselves to humanity." As the communication link crackled to life, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The response of these strange, young beings called humans would determine whether there was still hope for countless civilizations facing oblivion. In the vast expanse of space, two civilizations were about to meet, brought together by desperation and hope. The galaxy waited, wondering if humanity would rise to a challenge greater than any they had faced before. Humanity's unexpected response. The skies above Earth buzzed with activity as military jets and orbital defense platforms tracked the approaching alien vessel. In the White House Situation Room, President Elena Rodriguez sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by her top advisors and military brass. "Madam President," General Hawkins, the grizzled head of the Joint Chiefs, spoke up. "The alien craft has taken up a stable orbit around the moon. They're maintaining radio silence, but our sensors indicate they're powering down weapon systems." President Rodriguez nodded, her dark eyes narrowed in concentration. "So, not immediately hostile. That's something." She turned to Dr. Aisha Patel, the leading xenobiologist. "Doctor, your thoughts?" Dr. Patel leaned forward, her excitement barely contained. "Madam President, this is unprecedented. The ship's design is like nothing we've ever seen. The fact that they've chosen to approach peacefully suggests intelligence and possibly peaceful intent." As if on cue, a young lieutenant burst into the room. "Madam President, we're receiving a transmission from the alien craft." The room fell silent as the main screen flickered to life. The image that appeared caused a collective gasp. Ambassador Lyra's blue bioluminescent form filled the screen, her alien features a mix of anxiety and hope. "People of Earth," Lyra began, her words translated by advanced software. "We come in peace and in desperate need of your help. Our galaxy faces an existential threat, and you may be our last hope." For the next hour, Lyra explained the situation to the stunned human leaders. She told them of the void, the failed attempts to stop it, and the legends that had led them to seek out humanity. As Lyra finished her plea, President Rodriguez leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. The room erupted into heated discussion, with opinions ranging from outright dismissal to eager acceptance of the alien's request. Silence. Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos. She stood, her posture resolute. Dr. Patel, is there any reason to doubt their story? The xenobiologist shook her head. Their technology alone proves they're far more advanced than us. If they wanted to conquer Earth, they could have done so easily. I believe they're telling the truth. Rodriguez nodded, then turned to General Hawkins. Your assessment, General. Hawkins frowned, his bushy eyebrows furrowed. It's a risk, Madam President. But if what they're saying is true, we can't just sit by and do nothing. The threat could eventually reach us. The President took a deep breath, then faced the screen where Lyra waited anxiously. Ambassador, on behalf of the people of Earth, we hear your plea. We will need time to discuss and prepare, but know this: humanity stands ready to help. Humanity's unexpected response. The skies above Earth buzzed with activity as military jets and orbital defense platforms tracked the approaching alien vessel. In the White House Situation Room, President Elena Rodriguez sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by her top advisors and military brass. Madam President, General Hawkins, the grizzled head of the Joint Chiefs, spoke up. The alien craft has taken up a stable orbit around the moon. They're maintaining radio silence, but our sensors indicate they're powering down weapon systems. President Rodriguez nodded, her dark eyes narrowed in concentration. So, not immediately hostile. That's something. She turned to Dr. Aisha Patel, the leading xenobiologist. Doctor, your thoughts. Dr. Patel leaned forward, her excitement barely contained. Madam President, this is unprecedented. The ship's design is like nothing we've ever seen. The fact that they've chosen to approach peacefully suggests intelligence and possibly peaceful intent. As if on cue, a young lieutenant burst into the room. Madam President, we're receiving a transmission from the alien craft. The room fell silent as the main screen flickered to life. The image that appeared caused a collective gasp. Ambassador Lyra's blue bioluminescent form filled the screen, her alien features a mix of anxiety and hope. People of Earth, Lyra began, her words translated by advanced software. We come in peace and in desperate need of your help. Our galaxy faces an existential threat, and you may be our last hope. For the next hour, Lyra explained the situation to the stunned human leaders. She told them of the void, the failed attempts to stop it, and the legends that had led them to seek out humanity. As Lyra finished her plea, President Rodriguez leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. The room erupted into heated discussion, with opinions ranging from outright dismissal to eager acceptance of the alien's request. Silence. Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos. She stood, her posture resolute. Dr. Patel, is there any reason to doubt their story? The xenobiologist shook her head. Their technology alone proves they're far more advanced than us. If they wanted to conquer Earth, they could have done so easily. I believe they're telling the truth. Rodriguez nodded, then turned to General Hawkins. Your assessment, General. Hawkins frowned, his bushy eyebrows furrowed. It's a risk, Madam President. But if what they're saying is true, we can't just sit by and do nothing. The threat could eventually reach us. The President took a deep breath, then faced the screen where Lyra waited anxiously. Ambassador, on behalf of the people of Earth, we hear your plea. We will need time to discuss and prepare, but know this: humanity stands ready to help. Lyra's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with relief and gratitude. Thank you, President Rodriguez. You give hope to trillions of beings across the galaxy. As the transmission ended, Rodriguez turned to her team. Ladies and gentlemen, we have work to do. I want our best scientists, engineers, and problem solvers assembled within 24 hours. And prepare for a global address. The world needs to know what's happening. The next day, As billions of humans watched their screens in awe, President Rodriguez stood before a joint session of the United Nations. The alien ship hovered visibly in the sky behind her, a testament to the incredible reality of the situation. "My fellow citizens of Earth," she began, her voice steady and determined. "Yesterday we received irrefutable proof that we are not alone in the universe. But with this knowledge comes a grave responsibility. Our new galactic neighbors face annihilation from a threat beyond our comprehension. They have turned to us, humanity, in their darkest hour." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Some may ask, why should we help? Why risk our own safety for alien beings we've never met? I say to you, because it is the right thing to do. Because if we turn our backs on a galaxy in need, we betray the very qualities that make us human: our compassion, our courage, and our unyielding determination in the face of impossible odds." As she spoke, images of human achievements throughout history flashed on screens worldwide. The moon landing, the eradication of diseases, the development of clean energy. Time and again, humanity has faced challenges that seemed insurmountable. And time and again, we have triumphed through innovation, collaboration, and sheer force of will. Now we face our greatest challenge yet, and our greatest opportunity, to save not just our world, but countless worlds across the galaxy. The speech electrified the global population. Social media exploded with discussions, theories, and expressions of support. Scientists and engineers from every nation volunteered their expertise. Even long-standing rivalries were set aside in the face of this galactic crisis. In the days that followed, a flurry of activity gripped the planet. The United Nations established the Earth Defense and Exploration Initiative, EDEI, a global organization tasked with coordinating humanity's response to the galactic threat. Dr. Paddle found herself heading up the Xenobiology Division, working closely with Ambassador Lyra and her team to understand the nature of the void. In a specially constructed lab in Geneva, humans and aliens worked side by side, sharing knowledge and technologies. Meanwhile, in Silicon Valley, tech billionaire Zack Ryder threw open the doors of his advanced AI research facility. "We're dealing with a problem beyond human comprehension," he announced to a mixed team of human and alien scientists. "So let's create an intelligence beyond human comprehension to help us solve it." Across the globe, similar scenes played out. In Bangalore, a team of programmers worked around the clock to develop new algorithms for analyzing the void's behavior. In Tokyo, robotics experts collaborated with alien engineers to design probes that could withstand the extreme conditions near the anomaly. Not everyone was enthusiastic about the new galactic alliance. Protests erupted in some cities, with skeptics arguing that Earth should focus on its own problems rather than galactic ones. But these voices were in the minority. For most of humanity, the crisis had ignited a spark of unity and purpose unlike anything in history. 3 months after the aliens' arrival, the EDEI unveiled its first major project, the Starshot Initiative. Inspired by a theoretical project from the early 21st century, Starshot proposed to send a swarm of tiny, AI-controlled probes to study the void up close. These probes, each no larger than a smartphone, will be accelerated to a fraction of the speed of light using massive solar sails and ground-based lasers, explained Dr. Kira Chen, the project's lead scientist. They'll be able to get closer to the void than any previous attempt, sending back data that could be crucial to understanding and stopping it. As the first Starshot probes were prepared for launch, another team made a breakthrough in quantum communications. Led by Dr. Adebayo Okonkwo, they developed a system that could transmit data instantaneously across vast distances, bypassing the light speed limit that had hampered previous galactic communication efforts. "This changes everything," Dr. Okonkwo announced at a press conference, his voice brimming with excitement. "We can now coordinate our efforts across the galaxy in real time. The united intelligence of countless civilizations, working as one." 6 months after the aliens' arrival, Humanity was ready to present its initial findings and proposals to the Galactic Council. A delegation led by President Rodriguez prepared to embark on the journey to Galactic Central, accompanied by some of Earth's brightest minds. As they boarded the alien ship that would take them to the heart of the galaxy, Dr. Patel turned to the president. "It's incredible, isn't it? A year ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Now we're about to address a council of 1,000 alien species." Rodriguez nodded, a mix of determination and wonder in her eyes. "And we're bringing with us something no other species has, the unique human perspective. Our creativity, our resilience, our ability to think outside the box. If anyone can find a way to stop the void, it's us." As the ship lifted off, cheers erupted from the crowds gathered to watch. Humanity was taking its first steps into a larger galaxy, driven not by conquest or exploitation, but by a desire to help, to solve, to save. In the ship's observation deck, Ambassador Lyra watched the Earth recede, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with a mixture of hope and amazement. She turned to Grok, who stood silently beside her. "I must admit," she said softly, "when we first embarked on this mission, I had my doubts. How could such a young species help us where all others had failed? But now," Grok rumbled in agreement, "they are remarkable. In all my cycles, I've never seen a civilization adapt so quickly, innovate so rapidly. Perhaps there is hope after all." As the ship accelerated towards the stars, the fate of the galaxy rested on the shoulders of its newest and most unexpected champions. Humanity had answered the call. Now they would face their greatest challenge yet, and potentially change the course of galactic history forever. First contact and alliance. The journey to Galactic Central was a voyage of discovery for the human delegation. As their ship traversed vast distances through hyperspace, President Rodriguez and her team spent their time learning about the myriad species that made up the galactic community. Dr. Patel was in her element, peppering Ambassador Lyra with questions about alien biology and evolution. "The diversity is staggering," she marveled one day after a particularly enlightening discussion about silicon-based life forms. "It makes Earth's ecosystems seem almost simplistic in comparison." Meanwhile, Dr. Chen and her engineering team were busy studying the alien ship's propulsion systems. "If we can adapt this technology for our own ships," she explained to the president, "it could revolutionize our plans for solar system colonization." As they neared their destination, Ambassador Lyra gathered the humans for a briefing. "We're approaching Galactic Central," she announced, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to a formal configuration. "I must warn you, the sight can be overwhelming for species unaccustomed to such scale." Her words proved to be an understatement. As the ship dropped out of hyperspace, the human delegation crowded around the viewports, gasping in awe. Before them floated a massive space station, easily the size of Earth's moon. Its surface was a dizzying array of lights, docking bays, and architectural styles from 1,000 worlds. "Welcome," Lyra said softly, "to Galactic Central." As their ship docked, President Rodriguez gathered her team. "Remember," she said, her voice steady despite the nervous energy that filled the room, "we're not just representing Earth here. We're representing humanity's potential to help solve this crisis. Let's show them what we're capable of." The docking bay was a riot of color, sound, and motion as beings from across the galaxy gathered to witness the arrival of the mysterious humans. As Rodriguez and her team stepped off the ship, a hush fell over the crowd. For many, it was their first glimpse of the species upon which they had pinned their last hopes. High Counselor Zaxlith stepped forward, his crystalline form shimmering in the station's lights. "President Rodriguez," he intoned, his voice resonating with a musical quality, "on behalf of the Galactic Council and all the beings of our galaxy, I bid you welcome to Galactic Central." Rodriguez stepped forward, her posture straight and confident. "High Counselor," she replied, "on behalf of Earth and all of humanity, we thank you for your welcome. We come in friendship and in the hope that together we can face the threat that looms over us all. As formal introductions were made, Dr. Patel found herself in an animated discussion with a group of alien scientists. Despite their vastly different physiologies, she was struck by their shared passion for knowledge and discovery. The delegation was escorted to the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, a vast amphitheater filled with representatives from thousands of worlds. As they entered, a murmur rippled through the assembly. Hope, skepticism, and curiosity mingled in the air. High Counselor Zaxlith called the session to order, his voice echoing through the chamber. Esteemed colleagues, we stand at a crossroads in galactic history. The threat of the void looms ever larger, but today we welcome new allies in our fight. I present to you the representatives of humanity. President Rodriguez stepped up to the central platform, her voice clear and strong as she addressed the assembly. Honored members of the Galactic Council, we come before you not as conquerors or supplicants, but as partners. We may be young in the grand scale of galactic civilization, but we bring with us a fresh perspective and an unwavering determination to overcome any challenge. She went on to outline the initiatives that Earth had already begun: the Starshot probes, the quantum communication breakthrough, the AI research. As she spoke, holographic displays flickered to life, showcasing human innovation and ingenuity. But perhaps our greatest strength, Rodriguez continued, lies not in our technology, but in our diversity of thought. Throughout our history, humanity has faced and overcome countless challenges by approaching problems from new and unexpected angles. It is this adaptability, this creativity, that we offer to our new galactic allies. As Rodriguez concluded her speech, the chamber erupted into a cacophony of alien vocalizations, their equivalent of applause. Even the most skeptical members of the council seemed impressed by humanity's rapid progress and novel approaches. Next, Dr. Chen stepped forward to present the technical details of the Starshot initiative. These probes, she explained, bringing up a holographic model, can be mass-produced quickly and cheaply. By launching swarms of millions, we can gather exponentially more data about the void than ever before. The alien scientists in the audience leaned forward, their interest piqued. 1. A gaseous being contained within a translucent sphere floated forward. But how will these tiny probes withstand the extreme conditions near the void? It asked, its voice a series of whistles and pops translated by advanced software. Dr. Chen smiled. An excellent question. We've developed a unique shielding system, inspired by the tardigrades of Earth, microscopic animals capable of surviving in the vacuum of space. By mimicking their biological processes on a technological level, we've created probes that can withstand conditions that would destroy larger, more conventional craft. The explanation set off a flurry of excited discussions among the alien scientists. Ideas were exchanged rapidly, with the human approaches sparking new avenues of thought among races that had long since believed they had exhausted all possibilities. As the session progressed, it became clear that humanity's impact on the galactic community went beyond mere technological contributions. Their optimism, their drive to explore and understand, seemed to rekindle a spark that had long been missing among the older races. Ambassador Neelix, who had once scoffed at the idea of seeking human help, approached President Rodriguez during a recess. "I must admit," he said, his tentacles waving in a gesture of respect, "I had my doubts about your species. But seeing your innovations, your enthusiasm, it reminds me of my own people in their younger days. Perhaps that youthful energy is exactly what we need in these dark times." The following days were a whirlwind of meetings, presentations, and collaborative sessions. Human scientists worked alongside alien counterparts, sharing knowledge and pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. Dr. Okonkwo's quantum communication system proved to be a game-changer. With this technology, he explained to a rapt audience, we can coordinate our efforts across the entire galaxy in real time. Imagine the collective intelligence of every advanced civilization, working in perfect synchronization to solve this crisis. The implications were staggering. Races that had long been isolated by the vast distances of space could now share information instantaneously. The galactic community, once loosely connected, began to coalesce into a more unified entity. As the week-long summit neared its end, High Counselor Zaxlith called for a final session. The Grand Chamber, once filled with an atmosphere of despair, now buzzed with an energy it hadn't seen in eons. "My fellow beings," Zaxlith began, his crystalline form glowing brightly, "we came together in our darkest hour, facing a threat that seemed insurmountable. We turned to a young, unproven race in desperate hope, and they have exceeded our wildest expectations." He turned to the human delegation. "Humanity has shown us that youth and inexperience can be strengths, not weaknesses. They have reminded us of the power of diversity, of thinking beyond our established norms. Today, I propose that we officially welcome Earth into the galactic community, not as subordinates, but as full and equal partners in our shared future." The motion was met with overwhelming approval. As the Council voted to accept Earth into its ranks, cheers echoed through the chamber. President Rodriguez, visibly moved, stepped forward to accept. "On behalf of all humanity," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "we accept this great honor and responsibility. We may have come to the galactic stage late, but we promise to give everything we have to ensure a future for all sentient beings." As the session concluded, there was a palpable sense of hope in the air. The alliance between humanity and the galactic community had been forged in crisis, but it promised to reshape the future in ways no one could have predicted. Back on the ship preparing for their return journey to Earth, Dr. Patel turned to President Rodriguez. "It's incredible," she said, shaking her head in wonder. "A few months ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Now we're part of a galactic civilization." Rodriguez nodded, a mix of pride and determination in her eyes. "And we have a lot of work ahead of us. The void is still out there, still growing. But for the first time since this crisis began, I truly believe we have a chance of stopping it." As their ship undocked from Galactic Central, the human delegation looked out at the vast expanse of space with new eyes. They were no longer merely Earthlings, but citizens of a much larger community. And they were about to face the greatest challenge in the history of that community. The battle against the void loomed ahead, but humanity was ready. With their new allies by their side, and the spirit of innovation burning bright, they set their course for Earth, prepared to rally their planet for the fight that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The battle against the void. The return to Earth marked the beginning of a new era for humanity. As news of their acceptance into the galactic community spread, a wave of excitement and purpose swept across the planet. The threat of the void loomed large, but so did the opportunity to make a difference on a cosmic scale. Within months, the face of human civilization began to change. Massive ground-based laser arrays for the Starshot initiative sprouted in deserts and on mountaintops. Quantum communication relays were established in every major city, linking Earth to the Galactic Information Network. And in orbit, the first of Earth's own faster-than-light capable ships was nearing completion. Dr. Chen stood in the control room of the Starshot launch facility in the Atacama Desert, her eyes fixed on the monitors displaying the final launch preparations. T-minus 60 seconds, a voice announced over the speakers. President Rodriguez, who had come to witness this historic moment, placed a hand on Dr. Chen's shoulder. "Nervous?" she asked. Chen nodded, a wry smile on her face. "Terrified, but excited too. We're about to launch 1,000,000 probes towards the greatest threat our galaxy has ever faced. How could I not be nervous?" As the countdown reached 0, the desert night lit up as if dawn had come early. Beams of coherent light lanced up into the sky, catching the thin solar sails of countless microscopic probes and accelerating them to a significant fraction of the speed of light. "Launch successful," the flight controller announced, prompting cheers throughout the control room. "Probes are on course for the void's outer boundary. Estimated time of arrival: 3 weeks." Similar launches took place across the globe in the days that followed, sending swarms of probes hurtling towards their target. But the Starshot initiative was just one part of a much larger, coordinated effort. In low Earth orbit, the EDEI's flagship, christened the HSF Hope, prepared for its maiden voyage. Captain Amelia Zhao stood on the bridge, marveling at how quickly humans had adapted alien technology to their own designs. Status report. She called out to her crew, a mix of seasoned astronauts and alien advisors. All systems nominal, Captain. Her XO responded. We're ready to make the jump to hyperspace on your command. Zhao took a deep breath. Very well. Let's make history. Engage hyperdrive. In a flash of light, the Hope vanished from Earth orbit, becoming the first human-built ship to travel faster than light. As Earth mobilized, the rest of the galaxy did the same. The quantum communication network allowed for unprecedented coordination between civilizations. Ideas and technologies were shared freely, each race contributing their unique strengths to the cause. 3 weeks after the first Starshot launch, the probes reached the outer boundary of the void. Data began streaming back, providing the first close-up look at the phenomenon that threatened to consume the galaxy. In the Grand Chamber of Galactic Central, representatives from across the galaxy gathered to analyze the incoming information. Dr. Paddle stood before the assembled beings, her voice filled with a mix of awe and dread as she presented the findings. The void, it seems, is not simply consuming matter, she explained, gesturing to the holographic displays. It's rewriting the very laws of physics in the space it occupies. That's why our previous attempts to stop it have failed. We've been playing by rules that don't apply inside the void. A murmur of dismay rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Neelix's tentacles writhed anxiously. But if it's changing the laws of physics, how can we possibly fight it? Dr. Patel's eyes gleamed with determination. By changing the rules ourselves. Over the next months, a plan began to take shape. It was audacious, borderline insane, but it was the best hope they had. The plan involved creating a massive artificial quantum singularity on the edge of the void, a controlled black hole that would serve as an anchor for the normal laws of physics. Think of it like a cosmic game of tug-of-war, Dr. Okonkwo explained to the council. We use the singularity to pull on the fabric of space-time, counteracting the void's influence. The scale of the project was staggering. It would require the combined energy output of multiple star systems and technological contributions from dozens of civilizations. But faced with extinction, the galaxy rallied to the cause. Construction began on massive energy collectors around the stars nearest to the void's path. Fleets of ships were outfitted with experimental reality anchors, devices designed to reinforce the normal laws of physics in their vicinity. Meanwhile, the HSS Hope and its sister ships formed the vanguard of the defense fleet. They patrolled the edge of the void, using their advanced sensors to map its expansion and test the effectiveness of various countermeasures. Captain Zhao stood on the bridge of the Hope, watching the swirling darkness of the void on the main view screen. It's beautiful, in a terrifying sort of way, she mused to her alien advisor, a Medusan named Zexexanth. Zexexanth's tentacled head waved in agreement. Many terrible things in this universe are beautiful, Captain. That's what makes them so dangerous. Their contemplation was interrupted by an urgent call from sensors. Captain, we're detecting a massive energy spike from the void. Zhao snapped to attention. Evasive maneuvers. All hands. Brace for impact. The Hope shuddered as a wave of distorted space-time washed over it. Alarms blared throughout the ship as systems flickered and failed. Reality anchors holding at 60%, the science officer reported. We're keeping the laws of physics stable, but barely. Zhao gritted her teeth. Get me Galactic Central. They need to know. The void is fighting back. As news of the void's apparent sentience spread, panic threatened to overwhelm the Galactic Alliance. But humanity, young and optimistic as they were, refused to give up hope. Zack Ryder, the tech billionaire who had thrown his resources into AI research, emerged with a radical proposal. "We've been thinking of the void as an enemy," he explained to the Galactic Council. "But what if it's not malevolent? What if it's just different, operating on principles we don't understand?" His team had developed an AI unlike any other, one designed to think in ways utterly alien to organic life. "We propose sending this AI into the void," Ryder said, "not to fight it, but to communicate with it." The plan was met with skepticism, but as traditional methods continued to fail, desperation won out. A specially designed probe was built to house the AI, equipped with the most powerful reality anchors ever created. As the probe was launched towards the void, the combined fleets of the galaxy stood ready, their reality anchors working overtime to maintain a bubble of normal space around them. Days passed with no word from the probe. The void continued its inexorable expansion. Hope began to fade. Then, just as the galactic leadership was considering a desperate last stand, a signal came through. The AI had made contact. In the grand chamber of Galactic Central, silence fell as the AI's message was relayed. Its communication was strange, almost incomprehensible, but the gist was clear. The void was not a malevolent force, but a curious one. It was exploring, learning, rewriting reality as a way of understanding it. "It's a child," Dr. Patel breathed, wonder in her voice. "A cosmic child, playing with the building blocks of the universe." With this understanding came a new approach. Instead of fighting the void, they began to teach it. The AI acted as a translator, conveying the beauty and complexity of life in the galaxy, the value of diversity, the importance of preservation. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the void's expansion began to slow. Then, in a moment that would be etched into the history of every galactic civilization, it stopped. The void did not disappear. That perhaps would have been too much to hope for. But it ceased its consumption of the galaxy. Instead, it began to change, to create rather than destroy. Where once there was empty nothingness, new forms of matter and energy began to emerge, following laws of physics that defied conventional understanding. As the galactic fleet watched in awe, Captain Joe summed up the feelings of trillions of beings. "We came here expecting to fight a war. Instead, we've witnessed a birth." In the years that followed, the galaxy entered a new golden age. The alliance forged in crisis continued in peace, with Earth playing a central role. Humanity's creativity and adaptability, combined with the ancient wisdom of older races, drove innovations that reshaped civilization. The void, once a threat, became a source of discovery. Specially shielded research stations were established on its borders, probing the new forms of reality it generated. Each breakthrough brought new technologies, new understanding of the fundamental nature of existence. And through it all, the AI continued its communication, learning from the void as much as teaching it. It became a bridge between realities, opening up possibilities that even the most advanced civilizations had never dreamed of. As President Rodriguez stood in the grand chamber of Galactic Central, delivering Earth's first address as a full member of the galactic community, she reflected on the journey that had brought them there. "We came to the stars as children," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the galaxy through the quantum network. Wide-eyed, full of wonder, and unafraid to question the way things had always been done. In doing so, we helped find a solution that millennia of conventional wisdom had overlooked. She paused, looking out at the assembled representatives of a million worlds. "But we have learned as much as we have taught. From you, our galactic neighbors, we have gained perspective, patience, and a deeper understanding of our place in the cosmos. Together, we faced the greatest threat in our collective history. And together, we will forge a future brighter than any of us could have imagined." As applause filled the chamber, Rodriguez smiled. The battle against the void was over, the quest to understand it, and the new frontiers it had opened was just beginning. And humanity, no longer alone in the universe, was ready for the adventure. A new era for the galaxy. A decade had passed since the void ceased its expansion, And the face of the galaxy had changed in ways few could have imagined. The alliance forged in crisis had blossomed into a new age of cooperation and discovery. At the heart of this transformation was Earth, once an isolated world on the galactic fringe, now a hub of innovation and intercultural exchange. Dr. Aisha Patel stood at the window of her office in the Galactic Institute of Xenobiology, gazing out at the skyline of New Jakarta. The city, like many on Earth, had been transformed by the influx of alien technology and visitors. Gravity-defying spires reached into the clouds, while beings from 100 worlds moved through the streets below. A soft chime announced a visitor. Dr. Patel turned to see Ambassador Lyra enter, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing in a greeting. "Dr. Patel," Lyra said warmly, "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all, Ambassador," Patel replied with a smile. "What brings you to Earth?" Lyra's patterns shifted to convey excitement. "I just come from a meeting with the Galactic Council. They've approved funding for the Void Exploration Initiative. Your proposal was instrumental in convincing them." Patel's eyes widened. "That's wonderful news. When can we begin?" "Immediately," Lyra replied. "In fact, that's why I'm here. The Council wants you to lead the scientific team." As Patel absorbed this news, her mind raced with the possibilities. The Void, once a threat to all existence, had become the galaxy's greatest scientific frontier. The new forms of matter and energy it generated defied conventional physics, promising revolutionary advances in technology and understanding. "I'd be honored," Patel said, her voice filled with determination. "When do we leave?" Thousands of light-years away, on the edge of what was once known as the Void, the research station Event Horizon hung in space. Its sleek design, a blend of technologies from a dozen worlds, belied the cutting-edge work happening within. Captain Amelia Zhao, now Admiral Zhao, stood on the station's observation deck, watching the swirling patterns of the transformed Void. Next to her stood Zack Ryder, his boyish enthusiasm undimmed by the years. "It's incredible," Ryder mused, his eyes fixed on the spectacle before them. "A decade ago, we thought this was the end of everything. Now, it's the beginning of a whole new understanding of the universe." Zhao nodded, a small smile on her lips. "Your AI made this possible, Zack. Have you had any more breakthroughs in communicating with the Void?" Ryder's face lit up. "Oh, you wouldn't believe the progress we've made. Here, let me show you." He led Zhao to a nearby console and pulled up a holographic display. Complex equations and diagrams filled the air around them. "We've managed to establish a more direct line of communication," Ryder explained, his hands moving animatedly through the hologram. "The Void, or rather, the intelligence within it, it's not just learning anymore. It's creating. Purposefully." Zhao leaned in, her brow furrowed. "Creating what exactly?" "New laws of physics," Ryder said, his voice filled with awe. "It's like it's running simulations, testing out different rule sets for reality itself. And the implications, Admiral, they're staggering." Before Zhao could respond, an alert sounded throughout the station. "Admiral to the bridge," a voice announced over the comm system. "We're detecting unusual activity from the Void." When Zhao and Ryder reached the bridge, they found the crew in a flurry of activity. The main view screen showed the Void, but something was different. Tendrils of energy, unlike anything they'd seen before, were reaching out into normal space. "What are we looking at?" Zhao demanded. The science officer, a Medusan named Zixexanth, waved his tentacles in excitement. "It appears to be a controlled expansion, Admiral. The Void is growing, but not consuming. It's creating new space." Ryder rushed to a nearby console, his fingers flying over the controls. "The AI is receiving a transmission," he announced. It's an invitation." "An invitation," Zhao repeated, incredulous. "To where?" Ryder looked up, his eyes wide with wonder. "To the future." In the months that followed, the galaxy watched in awe as the Void's expansion continued. But unlike its previous consumption of reality, this growth was controlled, purposeful. Where the tendrils touched, new phenomena emerged, pockets of space where the laws of physics operated in novel ways. Dr. Patel and her team were at the forefront of studying these new regions. Their findings revolutionized fields from energy production to medicine. Harnessing the alternative laws of physics allowed for technologies that would have once been considered magic. On Earth, President Rodriguez, now in her second term, addressed the United Nations. "My fellow citizens of Earth and of the galaxy," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the planet and beyond through the quantum network. "We stand at the threshold of a new era. The void, once our greatest threat, has become our greatest teacher." She went on to outline the latest discoveries and their potential applications. Clean energy sources that could power entire planets without pollution. Medical techniques that could cure diseases once thought incurable. Faster-than-light travel methods that could shrink the vast distances between stars to mere steps. But perhaps the greatest gift the void has given us, Rodriguez continued, is perspective. "We've learned that the universe is stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined. And we've learned that when faced with the unknown, understanding is more powerful than fear." As humanity pushed further into the galaxy, they'd brought with them their unique blend of curiosity, creativity, and adaptability. Colony ships set out for distant stars, not to conquer, but to learn and grow. Each new world they settled became a melting pot of species and cultures, fostering innovations that would have been impossible in isolation. The Galactic Council, once a body focused primarily on governance, evolved into a collaborative entity dedicated to exploration and discovery. Representatives from every world worked together, pooling their knowledge and resources to unlock the secrets of the universe. Admiral Zhao found herself at the helm of a new type of fleet. Instead of warships, she commanded exploration vessels, each one a floating city of scientists and adventurers from across the galaxy. They probed the farthest reaches of known space and beyond, always pushing the boundaries of knowledge. On one such expedition, Zhao's flagship made a discovery that would once again reshape galactic society. In a region of space far from any known civilization, they encountered a Dyson sphere, a megastructure encompassing an entire star, harnessing its total energy output. But this was no alien artifact. As they approached, they received a transmission that left the crew in stunned silence. The Dyson sphere was a creation of the void, or rather, the intelligence within it, and it was inviting them inside. As Zhao led a team into the sphere, they found themselves in a realm that defied description. It was as if the laws of physics themselves were fluid, changing from moment to moment. And yet, within this chaos, there was order, a higher level of organization that their minds could barely comprehend. At the heart of the sphere, they met the intelligence of the void face to face, or as close to face as was possible with an entity that existed beyond normal spacetime. Communication was difficult, more conceptual than linguistic, but the message was clear. The void had been learning, growing, and now it was ready to teach. The knowledge it offered was beyond anything the galactic community had imagined. The nature of reality itself, the underlying fabric of the universe, the potential for creation on a cosmic scale, all this and more was laid bare. As news of the discovery spread, it sparked a renaissance across the galaxy. The boundaries between science, philosophy, and spirituality blurred as civilizations grappled with these new truths. The galaxy was transforming, evolving into something greater than the sum of its parts. Through it all, humanity continued to play a crucial role. Their adaptability, their willingness to embrace the unknown, made them ideal intermediaries between the established galactic order and the mind-bending concepts introduced by the void. Dr. Patel found herself leading seminars attended by beings from across the galaxy, helping them understand and apply the new knowledge. Ryder's AI continued to evolve, becoming a bridge between organic thought and the vast, alien intelligence of the void. And on Earth, a new generation was coming of age, a generation born into a galaxy of wonders, for whom the idea of humanity as an isolated species was ancient history. They looked to the stars not with fear or desire for conquest, but with an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and understanding. As the centennial of humanity's first contact approached, preparations were made for a grand celebration. The Galactic Council declared Earth a heritage site of galactic importance, recognizing the crucial role humanity had played in averting catastrophe and ushering in a new era. In the rebuilt Grand Chamber of Galactic Central, now a vast sphere that could accommodate representatives from millions of worlds, the ceremony began. Holographic displays showed celebrations taking place on countless planets, moons, and space stations across the galaxy. High Counselor Zaxlith, his crystalline form shimmering with age and wisdom, addressed the assembled beings. 100 years ago, he began, his voice resonating through the chamber. We faced our darkest hour. The void threatened to consume all we knew and loved. In desperation, we turned to a young, unproven race, humanity. He paused, his facets reflecting the light in a way that conveyed deep emotion. They did not merely save us. They showed us a new way forward. Their curiosity, their creativity, their indomitable spirit in the face of the unknown. These qualities have transformed our galaxy. As Zaxlith spoke, images flashed on the displays. The first human ships venturing into galactic space, the tense moments as the void's expansion was halted, the wondrous discoveries that followed. The faces of those who had played key roles, Rodriguez, Patel, Zhao, Ryder, and many others, were shown, honored by beings across the galaxy. Today, Zaxlith continued, we stand not as separate species, but as a united galactic community. We face the future not with fear, but with hope and wonder. And we owe this brighter future, in no small part, to humanity. As the celebration continued, fireworks of exotic matter lit up the skies of a million worlds. Ships of every description danced in formation around stars and planets, and in laboratories, universities, and research stations across the galaxy, the work continued, the never-ending quest for knowledge, understanding, and growth. On the observation deck of a space station orbiting Earth, Dr. Patel stood with Ambassador Lyra, watching the spectacle. 100 years, Patel mused. Sometimes it feels like yesterday that you first arrived on Earth. Lyra's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with affection and nostalgia. Indeed, who could have imagined where that desperate plea for help would lead? Patel smiled, her gaze turning to the stars. No longer distant points of light, but familiar destinations, each one full of friends and wonders. The best is yet to come, she said softly. We've only just begun to scratch the surface of what's possible. As if in agreement, a tendril of void energy shimmered in the distance, a reminder of the vast, beautiful mystery that still lay ahead. Humanity had answered the call, faced the unknown, and in doing so, had not only saved the galaxy but transformed it. The adventure, it seemed, was just beginning.